Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 27 of the Memorial Memo KSR's Kentucky Women's Basketball Podcast. Katie, we're getting into the slower part of the summer. It's officially May. And so the transfer portal, everything that's happening in the offseason is kind of officially slowing down. But there's still some stuff to discuss. So, Katie, before we get into it, like we do every episode, and ask, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I graduate in a week from today, so
Man,
definitely busy for me aside from, the slowness of the season right now, but still doing good and I'm excited to talk today.
that's exciting. Graduating, you said a week from today?
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Now, are you thrilled to see? Because whenever I'm thinking about my impending graduation, a couple of years down the line, I'm dreading the fact that I'm gonna have to sit through, however long the ceremony is gonna be. I'm gonna hate that.
Honestly, it is not that long. My brother graduated from UK and we were maybe there for like an hour tops because when you graduate, you just get to leave. So you don't have to sit through the whole thing.
Oh wait,
But
that's okay. Now hold on. Is it alphabetical order? Because I'm an S and you're an H.
no, you show up and whatever time you show up, you get in line and you graduate in that order. So
Oh man. So
They
I'm gonna
they
be
make
there
it
like
very nice.
I'm gonna be there like at the crack of dawn. Be like, all right, you know, I'm ready. Get me out of here, kind of thing. Katie,
Mhm.
let's go ahead and get into the episode. But we have to start with really some super unfortunate news. Georgia Amoore, man, like she gets drafted, and like 2 weeks later, suffers a right ACL injury in practice with the Mystics. Now, of course, I don't think we know for certain it's a tear.
Mm-mm.
The Mystics put out a press release and they said right ACL injury, but I think with that kind of thing, you can almost pretty much guess it's an ACL tear, which really sucks because now she's going to be out for, most likely going to be out for the season. Hopefully she's just ready to go by, this time next year, for the start of her, what will then be her rookie season. But Katie, just super unfortunate, man. Like the injury bug is just, like you saw it happen to Liz Kitley,
Mhm.
something about Kenny Brooks and his best players, like, I mean, first Liz Kitley and now Georgia Amoore, like, man, that really sucks.
Yeah, it does really suck, and I think that, like you said, we can just kind of assume that it's a tear, especially because we weren't given a timeline on when she would return. I
Yeah.
think if it was minor, it would be, like, 2 weeks or something, but, of course, minor setback equals major comeback. I think we can kind of make this, conversation like maybe they need a little bit more of a break in between the season and jumping right into WNBA season. So maybe this was just a common case of she's not been taking the break that she truly deserves. And as crazy as it sounds, like maybe this could be the thing that gives her that break that she really needs to recover her whole body, not just her knee. So hopefully, she has a safe and healthy recovery and I'm sure she'll come back better than ever.
Yeah, that's kind of, yeah, like if there's one thing about Georgia, it's that she's going to come back strong. And like you said, hopefully, excuse me, better than ever, right? Like I tend to think about, like you go back to her time at UK, like I think like Kenny obviously hinted at the fact that she was banged up a little bit, but I don't think it was anything that's like related to the injury at all. Like I think that was just a matter of like wear and tear kind of on her
Mhm.
body from playing a whole season. Maybe that attributed to this, I don't know. But yeah, I've seen a lot of outcry kind of since this. Like they really need to make the break between the college basketball season and the WNBA season. Like they need to make it a longer break. I mean, what is it like? So the season ends first week of April. I mean, the next week the WNBA draft starts, and like
Mhm.
2 weeks after that, the training camp starts. I could definitely see see why people want an extended break, especially if there really is a correlation like between people getting hurt
Mhm.
and this kind of thing. But I just really hate it for Georgia. I was super excited for that. Was it May 16th? That game where she was supposed
Yeah.
to go against Ryan Howard. That really sucks. But I'm like you. Hopefully she comes back better than ever. But yeah, really hate to see Georgia go through that. But Katie, if there's anything we've learned about her in this past year, is that she's going to stay strong and get through it for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Now, Katie, yesterday we got a bit of, or I don't know if it was yesterday, or the day before. Regardless, we got a little bit of news this week about Kentucky's schedule. So, you know, off the bat, we know Kentucky is going to play Louisville on the road. an ACC team, I believe, at home because of the SEC ACC challenge. Belmont on the road, which is going to be an interesting one because that Katie, that could be a trap game. Honestly, I mean Belmont's a good team. But,
Mhm.
that was a 6-point game last year, and then Purdue at home. But Katie, we learned a little bit about the non-conference schedule the other day because according to a report, Kentucky will be taking on Morehead State. Now, Kentucky all-time is 11-0 against Morehead State. I feel good heading into that one. I'm assuming that is a home game for Kentucky. I don't think that was like official and in the report, but I would assume that's a home game for Kentucky, Katie. But hey, we are kind of one step closer to being able to say this schedule's getting close to complete.
Yeah, and I'm excited to watch this Morehead State game. I mean, I know that Morehead State doesn't have near the talent that Kentucky will have, but it's close to home for me. It's kind of from my neck of the woods, and I drive through Morehead to get to my hometown from Lexington. So I just think it's going to be a fun game to watch. I always love these in-state matchups, so I'm excited to see this one.
I'm trying to think, like, what is your one, like, what is something you associate with Morehead State? Matthew Mitchell coached there, but
Yeah,
other than that, like, I think Kenneth Fareed played there. I could be wrong. I'm gonna look that up actually. Like NBA guy, I think Kenneth Fareed played there. But other than that, like, I don't know what in the world is there to know about? Oh, he did play Morehead State. Like, yeah, what is there to know about Morehead State other than
well,
Kenneth Fareed and Matthew Mitchell?
for a long time, that was the closest cookout to my hometown. So anytime we would go to Morehead State, usually for like regional basketball tournaments, my the 16th region high school basketball plays at Morehead. So go to the game, get cookout after, and then you got to drive an hour home. But it's still like that's what I associate with it. But yeah,
Man, that is a good association to have. Cookout is so good. Like, okay, we're getting off the rails because it's summertime, I guess. But like, I've had Cookout once, but I'm pretty sure because I had it in Lexington. I think it was
Mhm.
some kind of bacon cheeseburger thing, but there was something on it that was different from a normal bacon cheeseburger. I can't remember, but Katie, man, like I went there. Now you have to be worried. You have to kind of be careful when you go to the Cookout in Lexington because there's like a 10% chance you get shot when you go there. I mean that is a rough part of
Yeah,
Lexington at
for
night.
sure.
But yeah, Cookout, that is, yeah, I had it like once, and maybe it's because I'm scared to go back, but Cookout's really good. It's definitely
And
a good
it's only
association.
good after like 10 p.m. You can't go
Yeah,
anytime before that. So I understand why you don't go back, but just hit the drive-through and then leave as fast as you can.
you know what? I think you're right. Like, because I think when I had it, it was like really late at night. You know what? I think there's something to that. It's almost like Taco Bell. Like Taco Bell is one of those things you gotta have really late at night. I feel like
Mhm. Yeah, for
Taco Bell,
sure.
Cookout, yeah, as that like there are some places that really are just better really late at night.
Waffle
Anyway,
House.
Waffle. Oh man, Waffle House. Well, Waffle House is like, buddy, you're eating that basically like 2 in the morning. Like
Mhm.
that's its whole different. That's a whole different ball game right there. Now,
Yeah.
Katie, last week, which ended up being our podcast episode for last week, did an interview with Coach Brooks. I like to think there was a lot of good that came from that conversation, but I really hate the way it played out because uh, you schedule these interviews and you're like, all right, yeah, let's do it. And then I'm like, well, crap, can Katie come? And you were you were already preoccupied at that time. I should have tried to postpone it to get you on there, but at least we're here now. Katie, I'm assuming you definitely went back and listened to it. Just what are some, your big takeaways from what Coach Brooks said?
Well, he seemed really optimistic about the future of this program. I think that that's very reassuring to a lot of fans, especially after some things that happened in the off season recently. So for him to be so optimistic about what could happen next season and even seasons beyond that is really encouraging. And then also, I actually went back and watched it again today so that I could like kind of like reevaluate, I guess, and
Go
figure out
for
what I
it.
like the most. But yeah, basically, he said that in the portal, it's not about finding the best player, but about finding the right fit. And I think that that kind of goes to show like you have these astounding players in the portal, but Kentucky's not going after them. Well, it's probably because they don't fit in Kenny's system. And I think that that says a lot about him as a coach is he's not just trying to throw money at the best player. He wants to create this like family culture. I think that that is something to like really think about when you're thinking about Kenny Brooks. It's not that he doesn't want these best players, it's that really he doesn't need them. They don't belong at Kentucky.
I think it's a really good way to put it because I like how you brought up the money part because I've heard it. I think Matt mentioned it on his radio show on the KSR radio show. Like Kentucky from an NIL perspective, I think is in good shape,
Mhm.
but people question that when they're like, well, why is Tanai Latson going to South Carolina or Olivia Miles goes to TCU or like these top players like aren't coming to Kentucky, and I think that I think what as Kentucky fans, we have this problem where we see men's basketball. And look, I get it because I've been a men's basketball fan my whole life. And you see them, and like, obviously, the number isn't totally true, but you see that $20 million figure that was reported not that long ago. And you're like, Kentucky basketball, oh, we can just throw money at anyone and get anyone. Well, maybe. But even then, kind of like you were saying, you want to get the players who fit, right? Like you want to get the players who make sense on this in this system on this team. That was hard for me to spit out, but yeah, Katie, I'm like you. Like Kenny, I think he's very meticulous in the way he's recruiting. I thought the story. I think my favorite part of the whole interview, the story about how when Tony Morgan was coming in to visit, Georgia Amoore was heading to New York for the WNBA draft. And like quite literally at the same time, they run into each other at the airport. They take
Mhm.
that selfie and send it to Kenny. I thought that was my favorite part. Just like that was an interesting story. But I thought it was good. Like he opened up about Chrissy and the cancer treatment and all that a lot. And I thought that was really enlightening to listen to. There's a lot of good lessons you can take away about family and work and all that. But kind of just on the court. But yeah, I'm like you, Katie. I thought what he was saying about the future, getting the right fit versus the best player all the time, that really encouraged me.
Yeah, it encouraged me too, and I think that, like what you said about him opening up about Chrissy, it's very clear that Kenny has a lot of relatability to him. I think sometimes as fans, it can be easy to put these coaches either on a pedestal or treat them like honestly like they're not real people. Like you kind of just associate them with the program, but not as a person. And so for him to open up about that and be so vulnerable, I think is just a great way for fans to connect with him on a deeper level. I feel like that's really important heading into the future because he's definitely, as far as we know, he's going to stick around for a while. So I think that him being willing to connect with fans and viewers on that level is just something that's very admirable, I think.
I couldn't agree with that sentiment more. Katie, I thought one more thing before we move on. I thought something that was really, really interesting. Well, actually, first I'm going to answer this question because it's in all caps, which let me say, if you comment in all caps, that might be a secret way to get us talking about your comment. He says, what are your thoughts on Kentucky playing Morehead State, especially with Morehead State getting a new coach and Ashton Feldhouse, Darren Feldhouse's niece? That is true. I forgot about that connection. I forgot that was that happened. But it's kind of like we were saying earlier. I think it's good to see Kentucky play these in-state teams. To see Kentucky, go, I don't know if they're not going on the road to play this game. I imagine, but it's Katie. It's kind of like you were saying, like you drive through Morehead, you've been to Morehead. Like I think it's good to be able to connect kind of with the rest of these other schools in the state and just be able to play against them and in reality hopefully get an easy win in the
Mhm.
non-conference.
Yeah, especially because like this past season you had the WKU game and you got the western side of the state involved and now you've got Moorhead for the eastern side of the state to get involved. And so I think that it'll probably be a pretty packed house at Memorial, assuming that it's at home. And it's exciting to get to play in-state games because it kind of like brings back the passion that Kentuckians have for not just these smaller schools or not just, UK, but kind of for each other, if that makes sense. Like all of Kentucky is kind of a family, and I think that these in-state games associate that.
Man, I completely forgot that they hired Darren Feldhouse's niece. I completely because I remember seeing it when it happened, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting," and it just completely went past my mind. So there's another connection. We have Matthew Mitchell, Kenneth Fareed. That's what I mean. He's not even connected to Kentucky. I just know that random fact, and then Darren and Ashton Feldhouse. So that's definitely good to know. But Katie, like I was gonna say about the my last note, kind of on Kenny's interview. It seems like, and this is a good transition to our next topic. It seems like to me, he knows. Well, for one, he's really confident in the pieces he already has. But two, Katie, I think it's pretty fair to say they're about done in the transfer portal. I mean, just talking to him, it sounds like they want to get one more big. By the way, I really like the news he gave on Asia Boone, basically saying she'll be ready to go this summer, and it was like a 4-week recovery process. That's really good. She injured her foot against Kentucky there. But yeah, Katie, just kind of transitioning to the next topic. Like, how much work do you think is left to be done? Because I think Kenny said he wants to get like a backup big, kind of looking at that. But I think there's always room for, maybe another wing, another guard. You know, how much work do you think is cut out for Kentucky at this point?
I mean, when you look at the roster, it's pretty full. There's really not much else you can do at this point. I do agree with him. I think another big would be really helpful. So before this, I looked at the On3 transfer portal tracker, and I'm looking through and I'm looking for any kind of like young backup center that can kind of be the mini Clara Strack, like someone who can kind of take after her, like how she took after Liz Kitley. And really, the only one that I saw just based off first glance was Deborah Mukeba Kasanda from Boston College. She only played 3 games this season, but she's just a freshman, or she'll be a sophomore. But I think that even though like you want someone experienced, I kind of feel like since you don't really have any big commits coming in these next couple years, getting a young center would be really helpful, especially because if for some reason Clara Strack has to take a break or something like that, you have someone that can kind of follow behind her and kind of try and live up to her level and kind of be like mentored by her in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really hard when you're like trying to recruit that kind of position because I feel like it has to be hard for Kenny to be like, "Hey, we're recruiting you, but we're recruiting you to be our backup. Like, we're
Mhm.
recruiting you to play 5-10 minutes a game." Like, I don't know. I feel like when a player enters the portal, they want to hear they're going to go start somewhere. I just, I mean, he would be lying to them if it's like, "Hey, you're going to start, but hey, there's Clara Strack, kind of, just sitting there, going to be maybe the best player on the team." But now, because now you have to wonder, like, do they even get? Because this is the interesting part. Because it's like you were talking about. You look in the transfer portal, things are kind of like slim pickings for true like fives, right? And so now it's almost like, do you go back to JUCO like you did with Amelia Hassett? Do you go overseas and find you another European? Do you put Coach Rad to work there? Like my thing is, Katie, who knows who in the crap could it be to round out this roster? It could be done for all we know. I mean, like they could maybe not find that five, but like it's so interesting to me because like you said, the transfer portal is kind of running thin on those, fives that could really fit at Kentucky. Katie, do they go to JUCO or overseas or, like where in the world could they get this last piece?
I mean, I can't say I'm too knowledgeable about JUCO women's basketball, but I mean, I think that there are some hidden gems there. I mean, he found Amelia Hassett at Eastern Florida State College or whatever, something like that. I can't even remember at
Yeah,
this
that's
point,
what it
but
was. Yeah.
just there are hidden gems, and you find Clara Silva, and she's one of the best players in Portugal, and she comes in, she does her thing, and I think that there is a way to find hidden gems like that. I just think it's very time consuming, and you probably have to be able to offer a lot because truthfully, if I'm coming overseas, why would I want to come to Kentucky? If I'm one of the best players in my country in Europe or wherever I'm from, why is Kentucky appealing? And so I think that not being able to offer these um foreign players like a starting spot isn't that appealing to them. So it might be very difficult to find someone at that level. I think probably a better chance at a JUCO school to find someone who's willing to, make the jump to an SEC school without a starting spot. But other than that, I mean, I really don't know where else you can look for a true big like that.
And it's one of those things where, like, when you, again, like you bring them in, are they going to even contribute that much? Like, I know you're bringing them in to play 5-10 minutes a game. Like, how do you just, but like, how do you know they're going to even be able to give you that? I don't know.
Mhm.
It just sucks because you think about Clara Silva, and she's at TCU now, but it would have been nice to have her back this season,
Yeah.
for sure. I feel so like unfair, and I was talking with somebody about this one day, someone like kind of around the program, like Clara Silva got to Kentucky really late. Like she got to Kentucky, I think it was like a week or two before school started. Maybe even maybe even a little bit later than that. And so they were trying to develop her at such an accelerated pace because she didn't have a whole summer to get there. Coming in as a freshman, and so like it was probably extra hard on her to try to learn at that accelerated pace. But Katie almost wished she would have gave Kentucky like a chance this year.
Mhm.
Maybe give Kenny Brooks and that staff a summer to work with you. Like I get they're completely different players in a way, but you look at Liz Kitley, like I mean, they can develop bigs. Obviously, again, you're a different player than Liz Kitley, but like I just wish Clara Silva would have stuck around because it would have been nice to see her develop, especially on this team where you need another five.
Mhm.
Tana Becker, that she interests me because I don't think she's going to come back, but she hasn't committed anywhere, and I guess there's the like slightest of possibilities she takes her name out of the transfer portal. I haven't heard that's going to happen or that there's even any thought of that happening, but I think it would be interesting to maybe add her back, get some depth, develop her too. But Katie, I think main point being there's still some work to be done. It's just a matter of where exactly is that work? Where is that work going to be done, if that makes sense?
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that if, they can't find another big and they settle on another guard, or even if they don't get anybody at all, you have forwards who have proved that they can be physical. It's just tough because you don't want Clara Strack to have to play 40 minutes a game every single game at the 5. That would make, like we talked about earlier, the wear and tear on her body. I mean,
Yeah.
Georgia Amoore had to play 40 minutes a game every single game, and um, it's tough because you don't want her to have to carry the team on her back, which I think it's good because we brought in a lot of great players from the portal, and then you already have a pretty solid foundation of players. And then you have Jordan Obi and Dom coming in this season, so hopefully she's not carrying the team on her back. But we
Mhm.
know how talented she is, so I think it would be nice to have someone that can kind of take that pressure off of her if needed.
I mean, if I'm Kenny, I'm sitting there and I think about that was it 23-24 Virginia Tech team he had where they're getting in the conference tournament and Liz Kitley tears her ACL. Like you don't want that to happen to Clara Strack. Now obviously slightly different because Liz Kitley went to the or WNBA, and Clara Strack will be coming into a senior season, but you still don't want that to happen either. I mean, obviously, like I think that goes without saying, but I think if you're Kenny, like you almost have to get a backup big because I think you're right about the fact that they have these forwards and they can play small ball, they can play all kinds of ways, but Katie, let's be real. I mean, how many games was it where Claire Strack or Tiani Key or whoever was, sitting there with 4 fouls and, lost 10 minutes of game time because they were on the bench because they didn't want them to foul out, right? Like, you just never know with this group, and you're bringing that core back, and it's like, okay, I just feel like you really need extra depth. You really need an extra piece of, security. And I talked to Kenny about it in the interview, a little bit on camera, a little bit off camera. I think they really, I think he kind of agrees with that sentiment where he's like, we just need a little bit extra insurance down low. But you know, it's like we've talked about transfer portals. Like, I mean, it's about done. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
there's no like real studs you can go get, and I think it's going to be hard to recruit people from the portal to be like, hey, come back, be our backup. So maybe they go find their next Amelia Hassett or Clara Silva. I guess it just kind of remains to be seen. But Katie, I think we're going to put a bow on this episode. Here in the summer, things are a little bit shorter, things are slowing down. For you, maybe not so much because you're about to graduate. Congratulations, by the way. That's
Thank you.
obviously a big milestone in life. But Katie, before we get out of here, do you have any final words?
I don't. I'm excited to see this final piece of the puzzle, if there even is one. But other than that, like you said, it's been very slow. So I'm just waiting for the next thing to happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, like, comment, subscribe, do all those wonderful things here for us on the KSR YouTube channel. Steven putting in the work behind the scenes, making this ship sail. But until next time, we're going to head out. So peace out.